To win elections and therefore gain political power, political parties need to be well organized at the federal, state, and local levels, as well as well funded to fund campaigns. As mentioned in Module 3.1.1, to receive funding, the party must get at least 5% of the vote annually and appear on a minimum of 10 state ballots. Why do candidates need so much money, especially because buying votes isn't legal? You might be asking yourself. Campaigns are expensive. I've run a congressman's campaign, and I can tell you that money is needed for full-time political advisors, like I was, although I worked with a lot of volunteers who were really critical to help drop campaign literature door to door, deliver yard signs, make phone calls, send mass emails. Bumper stickers, yard signs, campaign buttons, and shirts need to be developed. The advertisements on the internet, radio, TV, and print can get expensive, as well as travel expenses, polling services, and office space, and these are just a few examples of the money needed. I've also managed a political action committee, or PAC. The federal government wanted to create more transparency and curtail the huge amounts of money entering elections, so it passed a number of bills, which led to the formation of PACs in the 1970s. From that point forward, their number steadily grew. As an early example of campaign finance legislation, came after Theodore Roosevelt's campaign raised an unprecedented amount of money. So in 1907, Congress passed the Tillman Act, which prohibited corporations from contributing money to candidates running in federal elections. The most important act was passed in 1971, the Federal Elections Campaign Act, FICA. It outlines how candidates would report all contributions and expenditures related to their campaigns. An amendment to the Act in 1974, 3 years later, had created the Federal Election Commission, the FEC. And that is an independent regulatory agency, and it's set up to oversee campaign financing, ensuring that candidates stay within the legal limits. FICA also created rules governing the way organizations and companies could contribute to federal campaigns, which allow for the creation of PACs. PACs are formed by interest groups, such as unions or businesses that want to contribute to campaigns. They pool funds and they give money to the candidates. So when we speak of campaign contributions, we must first distinguish between hard money and soft money. Hard money is given directly to candidates, whereas soft money is given to party committees to be used more generally. The relationship between money and politics is very complicated. A recent attempt to control money's influence on political campaigns for federal offices came in the form of a law passed in 2002. This law was called the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, the BCRA, but better known simply as McCain-Feingold, after the last names of the original sponsors of the act. This law was fiercely challenged in court, and though it was upheld in the Supreme Court in 2003, and it went into effect the following year. Some had challenged BCRA because they believed its limitations on gifts to PACs amounted to an abridgment of free speech as guaranteed in the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. First Amendment rights are discussed thoroughly in Module 2. McCain-Feingold prohibited political parties' committees from raising or spending funds beyond federal limits, whether the elections in question were at the national, state, or local levels. Also, as a result of what was called Stand By Your Ad, in McCain-Feingold, politicians are required to tell viewers of political messages that they approve this message. Some unforeseen consequences came out of McCain-Feingold. The importance of 527 committees grew. 527 committees got their name from that part of the Internal Revenue Code. As long as these 527 committees are not affiliated with a political party and do not specifically endorse a candidate, their advertisements are not taxed. For that reason, 527 committees will run advertisements about specific issues rather than attacking a candidate directly. An effort to control presidential campaign costs came in the form of public financing. If a candidate raises more than $5,000 in donations of less than $250 in 20 different states, then the candidate qualifies for public funding for his or her campaign. However, there is a limit on how much public funding a candidate can receive, so candidates often decline public financing so as not to limit how much money can be raised and spent on the campaign. In the 2000 presidential election, Republican George W. Bush declined public financing, for example, and in 2004, Democrat John Kerry did the same. In 2010, the Supreme Court's ruling on Citizen United versus the Federal Election Commission led to the removal of spending limits on corporations. Justices in the majority argued that the BCRA violated a corporation's free speech rights. The court ruling also allowed corporations to place unlimited money into super PACs or independent expenditure-only committees. These organizations cannot contribute directly to a candidate, nor can they strategize with the candidate's campaign. They can, however, raise and spend as much money as they please to support or attack a candidate, including running advertisements and hosting events. The Citizens United court ruling continues to remain controversial today. Continue to review this video and do your readings in the textbook and answer all your questions.